Ambassador Elaine Torres fought to control her breathing as the massive doors to the Galactic Council chamber slid open. The cavernous hall stretched before her, carved from a single asteroid at the center of the galaxy, its walls embedded with bioluminescent technology that pulsed with colors humans had no names for. She stepped onto the circular platform that would carry her to the center of the chamber, painfully aware that she was the only human among thousands of alien representatives. Above them all, Emperor Vextar's massive hologram materialized, towering 50 meters high. His 6 glowing eyes narrowed as they fixed on Elaine. The Emperor's exoskeleton gleamed with ceremonial metals harvested from 100 conquered worlds, and his forearms moved in the formal gestures of the ancient Concorda. "The Council recognizes the representative of Earth," announced Grand Vizier Ulthar, his translucent body floating beside the Emperor's projection. "You stand before the oldest governing body in the galaxy, human. A council that has maintained peace for 10,000 years. The chamber hummed with whispers and clicks as hundreds of species communicated their displeasure. From her platform, Elaine could see representatives from worlds humans had only glimpsed through telescopes. Beings of crystal, gas, and forms that defied human categorization. "Thank you for this opportunity," Elaine began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Earth is not here to be honored," the Emperor interrupted, his deep voice reverberating through the chamber. "The human species has been summoned to answer for its actions." A murmur rippled through the gathered representatives. This was not how the diplomatic meeting was supposed to begin. "I'm afraid I don't understand, Your Eminence," Elaine said. "We followed all protocols since first contact. Our ships respect your trade routes. Our colonies remain within the boundaries you established." The Emperor's massive face twisted into what might have been a smile on his alien features. "Your obedience on the surface is precisely what concerns us, human. Species who achieve faster-than-light travel typically take centuries to develop the technologies you've demonstrated in mere decades." Holographic displays appeared around the chamber, showing human starships, Earth's orbital defenses, and transmissions intercepted from human colonies. "The human species," the Emperor continued, "has been deemed too unpredictable, too dangerous to join our ancient galactic concordat. Despite being primitives who achieved FTL travel merely decades ago, they have already disrupted trade routes, challenged our scientific authorities, and worst of all, inspired rebellious thoughts among our servant species." The whispers grew louder, and Elaine noticed representatives from the so-called servant species shifting uncomfortably. There had been rumors about the concordat's hierarchy, but humanity had never been given full details about which species were considered equals and which were not. "With respect, Emperor," Elaine said, "Earth has only sought peaceful relations. If we've violated any customs unknowingly—" "Enough!" The Emperor raised all 4 arms, silencing the chamber. "I have called for this unprecedented vote. The complete quarantine and banishment of humanity from all galactic affairs." Elaine felt a cold shock run through her body. Banishment? This wasn't a diplomatic meeting, it was a trial. "The vote begins now," announced Ulthar, as glowing beams of light emerged from each representative's position, converging in the center of the chamber. Elaine's neural implant buzzed, an impossible signal from Earth, 70,000 light-years away. The quantum entanglement technology that allowed instant communication across such vast distances was something humanity had kept secret from the Concordat. The message was simple. "We expected this. Execute Protocol Prometheus." As the Council's voting beams converged overwhelmingly in favor of banishment, Elaine allowed herself a small smile. The Emperor noticed her expression and paused. "You find your extinction amusing, human?" he asked, his voice dangerously soft. "No, Your Eminence," Elaine replied calmly. "I just received word that Earth has already responded to your decision. The decision you made in secret 3 days ago before this theatrical vote." The chamber erupted in chaos as every alien communication device simultaneously displayed the same message. "Humanity accepts your challenge." The Emperor's hologram flickered as he leaned forward. "Impossible. How could you know of our decision before this assembly?" "Perhaps we're not as primitive as you believed," Elaine said. "Earth has known about the Concordat far longer than you've known about us. We've been watching, learning, preparing." "Preparing for what?" demanded Ulthar. "For exactly this moment," Elaine replied. "You see, we understand what this is really about. You fear us not because we're dangerous, but because we're different. We didn't build our civilization on conquest like the Concordat. We built it on adaptation. The Emperor's eyes narrowed to slits. You dare accuse the Concordat? I dare to tell the truth, Elaine interrupted. Your empire spans galaxies, yet you fear a single planet because we represent something you can't control. Change. Around the chamber, representatives from dozens of worlds shifted uncomfortably, and Elaine knew her words had struck a nerve. The Concordat's stability was built on the premise that the strong governed the weak, but humanity had never accepted that premise. You have made a grave mistake, the Emperor said. No species defies the Concordat and survives. We're not defying you, Elaine said. We're simply declining your invitation to extinction. She touched her neural implant, and holographic displays appeared around her, showing Concordat ships already moving toward Earth's solar system. Ships that had been dispatched days before this vote ever took place. You plan to destroy us regardless of today's outcome, Elaine said, addressing the full council now. Many of you didn't know that, did you? You thought this was a legitimate vote, not a predetermined execution. Murmurs spread through the chamber as representatives conferred with their homeworlds. The Emperor's hologram flickered with barely contained rage. What happens next is your choice, Elaine continued. But know this. Humanity won't be eliminated quietly. Protocol Prometheus isn't a weapon or an attack. It's a revelation. Throughout the chamber, communication systems pinged as data packets flooded every network in the Concordat, files upon files detailing the Emperor's secret decisions, the species quietly eliminated over millennia, the technologies suppressed to maintain control. For years, we've gathered this information, Elaine explained. Every corrupt dealing, every planetary genocide, every enslaved species, all being broadcast on the Concordat's own secure channels. The truth the Emperor has hidden for centuries. The Grand Vizier floated to the Emperor, urgently whispering something. The massive hologram of Vextar flickered as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. This changes nothing, the Emperor declared. The vote stands. Humanity is banished from all Concordat worlds and trade routes. Any human vessel found outside your solar system will be destroyed immediately. As you wish, Elaine said with a formal bow. Earth will respect your borders. But will your borders hold when your own people learn the truth about who rules them? As if on cue, the Chamber's communication system announced incoming transmissions from dozens of Concordat worlds. Reports of protests, uprisings, and demands for explanation. The Emperor's hologram vanished abruptly, leaving the Grand Vizier to adjourn the council session in disarray. As Elaine was escorted from the chamber by security drones, she received another message from Earth. Phase 1 complete. Preparing Phase 2. The Emperor had voted to banish humanity, believing it would lead to Earth's isolation and eventual destruction. Instead, it had triggered the carefully orchestrated response humanity had planned for years. The game had just begun and Earth had made its first move on the galactic board. Admiral Marcus Okafor stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force flagship Resilient, his dark eyes fixed on the holographic display showing thousands of tiny lights activating across the galaxy. Each light represented a stealth satellite coming, online devices that had been placed in orbit around every major Concordat world over the past decade by seemingly innocuous human trading vessels. They never understood why we were so interested in their garbage disposal technologies, his executive officer, Commander Diana Reyes, remarked as she studied the same display. They thought we were primitive scavengers desperate to improve our recycling methods. Marcus nodded, the ghost of a smile touching his lips. Instead, we were using those collection missions to map their defense grids and place our observation platforms. Sometimes the best hiding place is in plain sight. The bridge hummed with activity as officers monitored the incoming data streams. The satellites designed to mimic space debris had remained dormant until Protocol Prometheus was activated. Now they were gathering critical intelligence while remaining invisible to Concordat sensors. Ambassador, Torres has been extracted safely from the Council asteroid, reported Communications Officer Lee. Her transport is en route to Rendezvous Point Delta. Good, Marcus said. She played her part perfectly. The Emperor believed he was springing a trap, never realizing he was walking into one. On the massive screen surrounding the bridge, data poured in from across the galaxy, shield frequencies, weapons capabilities, resource movements, and most importantly, communications. For years, humanity had been gathering intelligence while appearing to be technological novices begging for acceptance. The Emperor believed banishment would cripple us, Marcus said, addressing his bridge crew. He didn't realize we've been operating independently for years. Our apparent eagerness to join the Concordat was the perfect cover for our true operations. He tapped a control panel, bringing up a new display. Activate Phase 2. Across the galaxy, human operatives, many not even human in appearance thanks to advanced biological engineering, began accessing secure Concordat databases. These agents had been placed years ago, quietly working in low-level positions throughout the Concordat hierarchy. Every corrupt dealing, every planetary genocide, every enslaved species, all their secrets are being broadcast on their own channels, Diana said, reading the incoming reports. The Emperor's carefully constructed hierarchy is about to implode. Marcus watched as the first reports of unrest appeared on the display, protests on the central planets, work stoppages in the mining colonies, military vessels failing to respond to Imperial commands. "Sir," called out Tactical Officer Rodriguez, "we're detecting movement from the Concordat fleet at Sector 7. 37 capital ships breaking orbit and forming up." "Heading?" Marcus asked. "Directly toward Sol system, sir. Estimated arrival in 72 hours at their maximum FTL capabilities." Marcus nodded, unsurprised. The Emperor is responding exactly as predicted. He's sending his fleet to make an example of Earth. Notify all EDF vessels to maintain stealth protocols. No engagement without direct authorization. Diana stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Are you sure about this, sir? We could deploy the defense grid now. Show them our true capabilities before they reach our system." "That's what the Emperor expects," Marcus replied. "He wants us to reveal our hand too early. Remember, this isn't just about defending Earth. It's about changing the balance of power throughout the galaxy." He gestured to another display showing rising unrest across Concordat space. For 10,000 years, the Emperor has maintained control through secrecy and fear. Species that could have been our allies have been kept as servants, believing they needed the Concordat's protection. Now they're learning the truth. On 100 worlds, revolutions began simultaneously as the carefully controlled information networks of the Concordat collapsed under the weight of humanity's data dumps. Species that had been told they were being protected learned they were being exploited. Worlds that believed they were valued members of the Concordat discovered they were merely resources to be harvested. "Sir," Communications Officer Lee called out, "we're receiving transmissions from 17 different species requesting direct contact with Earth. They want to know if the information we've released is genuine." "Establish secure channels," Marcus ordered. "Share our verification protocols and offer assistance to any world that requests it. But make it clear, we're not looking to replace the Concordat with an Earth-led empire. Our goal is partnership, not dominance." The bridge fell silent as a priority alert sounded. A new hologram appeared, a direct transmission from the Emperor's flagship, now moving at maximum speed toward Earth. The massive face of Emperor Vextar filled the display, his 6 eyes glowing with barely contained fury. "Human," he addressed Marcus directly, somehow having found the resilient despite its stealth systems. "You believe you have outmaneuvered the Concordat? This is a mistake you will not live to regret." Marcus straightened, meeting the Emperor's gaze. "Your Eminence, I'm surprised you're taking time from suppressing the revolutions on your core worlds to contact us directly." The Emperor's exoskeleton clicked in agitation. "These minor uprisings will be crushed. The Concordat has endured for millennia. It will not be undone by primitives who barely understand the technology they've stolen." "We didn't steal anything," Marcus replied calmly. "We learned. We observed. We prepared. Something your empire stopped doing long ago, content in your assumption of superiority." "My armada will reach your world in 3 days," the Emperor said. "Your species will be eradicated as an example to all who would challenge the natural order." Marcus allowed himself a small smile. "The natural order? Is that what you call the systematic suppression of any species that might one day rival your power? The genetic manipulation of entire populations to ensure they remain dependent on Concordat technologies?" The Emperor's image flickered as he leaned forward. "You know nothing of what is required to maintain peace across a galaxy, human. Sometimes species must be guided, controlled for their own protection." "Controlled," Subjugated. Enslaved, Marcus countered. Call it what you will, but the truth is spreading faster than your ships can travel. By the time your armada reaches Earth, you may find you have no empire left to defend. The Emperor's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. You overestimate your impact, human. The species of the Concordat are not like you. They understand their place in the hierarchy. They accept it, do they? Marcus asked, gesturing to an officer who pushed a data feed to the Emperor's transmission. Live footage of massive protests on Concordat core worlds. Military vessels refusing orders, entire sectors declaring independence. This is merely the beginning, Marcus said. Protocol Prometheus isn't an attack, Your Eminence. It's an awakening. The Emperor's image grew larger, his voice dropping to a dangerous hiss. Then you leave me no choice. The planet cracker has been authorized. Earth will be reduced to asteroid debris as a lesson to all who would follow your example. The transmission cut abruptly, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Planet cracker? Diana asked, her voice steady despite the threat. Our intelligence suggested they had mothballed that technology centuries ago after the Rigelian genocide. Apparently not, Marcus said, turning to his tactical display. The Emperor is desperate. He knows he's losing control of the narrative, and in a society built on information control, that's fatal. He tapped a series of commands into his console.
Signal all EDF vessels.
Implement contingency Helios. Throughout the Sol system and beyond, hidden installations came to life. Deep beneath Earth's oceans, on Mars's moons, in the asteroid belt, and scattered throughout nearby star systems, humanity's true military capabilities began to activate. The Emperor believes he's dealing with a primitive species that somehow stumbled upon a few advanced technologies. Marcus said to his bridge crew, he has no idea what we're truly capable of. Diana stepped closer, studying the tactical display as hundreds of ships appeared, emerging from hidden docks and camouflaged bases. Will it be enough to stop a planet cracker? It won't come to that, Marcus said with quiet confidence. The Emperor is about to learn that humanity didn't just prepare for this moment militarily. We've been preparing diplomatically as well. On the main screen, new alerts appeared. Transmissions from dozens of supposedly loyal Concordat worlds, all demanding the Emperor recall his fleet and address the revelations that were spreading throughout the galaxy. The Emperor had voted to banish humanity, expecting submission. Instead, he had triggered a response that threatened the very foundations of his 10,000-year empire. Phase 2 of Protocol Prometheus was complete, and Phase 3 was about to begin. Emperor Vextar slammed all 4 of his armored fists onto the crystalline table, causing it to crack under the impact. The inner sanctum of his flagship, a chamber so secure that not even his most trusted advisors were normally permitted entry, now felt like a prison as reports of rebellion flooded in from across his once stable empire. How? He demanded, his voice echoing against the chamber's living walls. How did primitive mammals accomplish this in mere days? Grand Vizier Ulthar floated several meters away, his translucent body pulsing with stress indicators. He manipulated the holographic displays with practiced precision, showing representations of spreading chaos throughout Concordat space. We underestimated them, Ulthar admitted, his voice a soothing harmonic meant to calm the Emperor. It wasn't working. Their apparent technological inferiority was deliberately crafted. They wanted us to dismiss them while they studied us. Impossible, Vextar hissed. No species could maintain such deception across an entire civilization. Our observers on Earth confirmed their primitive nature. Their weapons, their energy systems, their medical technology, all barely advanced beyond fossil fuels. Ulthar's body shifted to a deeper blue, indicating deep concern. It appears those observations were curated. The humans showed us what they wanted us to see. Reports now suggest they have maintained 2 parallel technological tracks for decades, one public, one hidden. The Emperor's exoskeleton clicked in agitation as he absorbed this. For 10,000 years, the Concordat had maintained galactic stability through careful management of technological development. Advanced technologies were restricted to the upper tiers of society, while servant species were kept dependent on Concordat support. The idea that humans had developed in secret bypassing these controls was more than troubling. It was existential. The planet cracker, Vextar said suddenly. Accelerate our arrival time. We will make an example of Earth so devastating that no species will dare challenge us again. Ulthar hesitated, his crystalline form dimming slightly. "Your Eminence, there's something else. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected anomalies, thousands of them moving through subspace. They appear to be human vessels, but nothing like the primitive ships they've shown us." The Emperor moved to the central display, his 6 eyes narrowing as he studied the data. What he saw caused even his ancient, battle-hardened form to pause. The vessels emerging from subspace, a dimensional layer the Concordat had believed only they could navigate, were clearly of human design. But their energy signatures, their size, their configurations, all suggested technology that matched or exceeded Concordat capabilities. "Impossible," the Emperor whispered, but with less conviction than before. On the observation deck of the Imperial Armada's flagship, Fleet Commander Zor watched in stunned silence as over 5,000 human warships emerged from subspace, forming a barrier between the Concordat fleet and the path to Earth. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Trell, frantically worked the tactical displays, trying to make sense of the readings. "These cannot be human vessels," Trell insisted. "Our intelligence indicated their fleet consisted of fewer than 200 ships, all with minimal defensive capabilities." "Evidently," Zor replied dryly, "our intelligence was flawed." The communication system chimed, indicating an incoming transmission from the lead human vessel. Zor hesitated only briefly before accepting it. A dark-skinned human female appeared on the screen, her uniform unlike any Zor had seen in briefings about Earth military forces. It bore no insignia of rank, only a simple emblem of Earth with stars surrounding it. "This is General Aisha Mbeki of the Earth Defense Force," she said without preamble. "Your fleet has entered restricted space. We have no desire for war with the Concordat, but we will not be banished or threatened. The choice is yours, Commander." Zor felt the weight of 10,000 years of Concordat military tradition pressing down on him. The proper response would be immediate attack. No species challenged the Emperor's will and survived. But the tactical displays showed what such an attack would mean. Despite outnumbering the human fleet, the Concordat ships would be devastated. "This is Fleet Commander Zor," he responded formally. "By order of Emperor Vextar, Supreme Ruler of the Galactic Concordat, I demand your immediate surrender and the coordinates of your homeworld for necessary pacification." The human general's expression didn't change. "Commander, I respect your loyalty to your Emperor, but I suggest you look more carefully at what's happening throughout Concordat space before you commit to a battle you cannot win." With that, additional data began streaming to the Concordat flagship, real-time footage from dozens of worlds where Concordat authority was collapsing. On Helios 9, the mining colony that provided critical materials for Concordat warships, workers had seized control of the facilities. On Draconis Prime, the military academy that trained Concordat officers was under blockade by its own security forces. Even on the sacred homeworlds of the founding species, protests filled the streets. Zor felt something he had never experienced in his 3 centuries of service to the Concordat: doubt. "You have 1 hour to consult with your Emperor," General Mbeki said. "We will maintain our position. If your fleet advances, we will interpret it as an act of war and respond accordingly." The transmission ended, leaving the observation deck in stunned silence. Back in his inner sanctum, Emperor Vextar received the reports from Fleet Commander Zor with growing rage. The Emperor had ruled for over 1,000 years, guiding the Concordat through challenges from within and without. But nothing had prepared him for this. A species that had hidden its true nature infiltrated his empire and now threatened not just to resist but to fundamentally change the order he had maintained. "Launch the attack," he ordered. "All ships, maximum firepower. I want those human vessels destroyed and Earth reduced to rubble." Grand Vizier Ulthar's form flickered anxiously. "Your Eminence, if I may. The tactical analysis suggests we would suffer catastrophic losses, and the political situation will resolve itself once the humans are eliminated," Vextar snapped. "Species have challenged the Concordat before. All have failed. All have been forgotten. But none have revealed the inner workings of the Concordat to the servant species," Ulthar pointed out. "The data the humans have distributed, it contains information even I was not aware of." The Emperor turned all 6 eyes on his oldest advisor. "What do you mean?" Ulthar projected a series of documents, ancient records from the early days of the Concordat, genetic manipulation protocols, planetary destruction authorizations that had been erased from official history. The humans haven't just exposed our current operations, Ulthar explained. They've somehow accessed the ancestral archives, records I believed were known only to you and the founding members of the Imperial Council. For the first time in centuries, Emperor Vextar felt fear. The ancestral archives contained the true history of how the Concordat came to power, not through benevolent guidance as official history claimed, but through systematic elimination of competing advanced species and genetic tampering with lesser races to ensure they remained dependent. How? He whispered. The archives are secured by biological locks keyed to founding species genetics. Ulthar's form pulsed with uncertainty. Unknown. But this suggests the humans have had contact with our civilization far earlier than we realized. Perhaps they found an abandoned outpost or made contact with one of the species we believed we had, removed from the galactic stage. The Emperor turned back to the tactical display, watching as his fleet faced off against the human armada. The planet Cracker, his ultimate weapon, was charging but would need another 12 hours to reach full power. Time he increasingly suspected he didn't have. New transmission from Earth, announced a communication officer. The Emperor nodded, and the main screen filled with the image of a human male. Admiral Marcus Okafor, commander of the Earth Defense Forces. Emperor Vextar, the human said with a formal bow that somehow managed to convey respect without submission. I understand your fleet is preparing to attack. Before you give that order, I believe we should discuss alternatives that don't involve the unnecessary deaths of your loyal soldiers. There is nothing to discuss, Vextar replied coldly. The Concordat does not negotiate with species that violate our laws. And what of species that expose your lies? Marcus asked. The servant races you've genetically modified to remain dependent on your technologies are breaking those chains as we speak. The weapons you've used to maintain control for millennia have been neutralized. As if to emphasize his point, alarms suddenly blared throughout the Imperial flagship. On secondary displays, Vextar watched in disbelief as the planet Cracker's power core went into emergency shutdown. What have you done? He demanded. We've been studying Concordat technology for longer than you realize, Marcus replied calmly. Long enough to understand its weaknesses. Your planet Cracker uses quantum resonance to destabilize planetary cores. Technology your ancestors stole from the Arcadians before eliminating them. Technology with very specific vulnerabilities. The Emperor's rage built to a breaking point. In 10,000 years, no species had dared to challenge him so directly. With a gesture, he cut the transmission. Kryn had served the Concordat for 300 cycles. Ever since his species, the Taldari, had been uplifted into servitude. His blue-scaled hands moved with practiced precision across the mining colony's control panel, monitoring the extraction of rare minerals from the depths of Helios 9. It was the only life he had ever known, the only life his people had known for generations, until today. The data packet had arrived on all communication devices simultaneously, bypassing the colony's strict information filters. At first, Kryn had been afraid to open it, knowing that unauthorized information was punishable by nerve reconditioning. But curiosity had won out, and what he saw changed everything. Medical records, genetic sequences, historical documents, all telling the same story. The Taldari had once been equals, a spacefaring species with their own technology and culture, until engineered plagues had decimated their population, making them dependent on Concordat medicine. Their uplift had been nothing more than enslavement disguised as salvation. Overseer approaching, warned Mila, another Taldari worker. Her scales had paled with stress since viewing the same data. What do we do? Kryn looked around at the 24 Taldari workers on this shift. All had seen the truth. All were waiting for someone to speak first. What we should have done centuries ago, Kryn replied, and pressed the emergency shutdown sequence. Throughout the massive mining complex, machinery ground to a halt. Warning klaxons blared as the Concordat overseers rushed to the control center, their insectoid forms clicking with agitation. Explain this shutdown immediately, demanded Head Overseer Traz, his mandibles flexing in threat display. Kryn stepped forward, something no Taldari had done in living memory without explicit permission. We're done extracting wealth for the Concordat while our people suffer. Insolence. Traz raised his neural whip. a device that could trigger excruciating pain in the implants all Taldari workers were required to have. He pressed the activation stud and nothing happened. Kryn smiled, revealing rows of sharp teeth that generations of genetic tampering hadn't completely eliminated. The humans sent more than information. They sent a code that deactivates our control implants. The realization of what was happening spread across the Overseer's alien features. He backed toward the door only to find it blocked by more Taldari workers. The humans offer us a choice, Kryn continued, advancing slowly. Continue serving the Concordat or reclaim our independence. We've made our decision. Across the galaxy, similar rebellions erupted as the carefully maintained hierarchy of the Concordat crumbled. Species that had been kept dependent through engineered diseases found themselves cured by human medical technology. Races that had been told they lacked the genetic capacity for higher thought discovered that their mental limitations were the result of Concordat suppressors in their food and water. On the planet Novan Prime, a world that served as a breadbasket for Concordat core systems, agricultural worker Lena watched as human ships landed openly for the first time. Unlike the Concordat vessels that came only to collect tribute, these ships brought supplies, medicines, and technology. We come as partners, not masters, announced the human leader, a woman named Dr. Maya Williams. Earth knows what it means to struggle for freedom. We offer you the tools to secure your own. Lena, like many on her world, had been taught that humans were primitive, violent creatures barely worthy of galactic citizenship. Yet these humans shared their knowledge freely, treated the Novanians as equals, and asked only for cooperation in return. Why would you help us? Lena asked Dr. Williams as they walked through fields of golden grain. You have no obligation to our world. Because the galaxy belongs to all sentient species, Maya replied. The Concordat model of domination is unsustainable. We believe in a different approach: partnership, mutual respect, shared prosperity. In the Galactic Council chamber, now half empty as representatives of rebellious worlds had departed, Ambassador Elaine Torres faced the remaining loyal delegates. The massive hologram of Emperor Vextar was notably absent. As reports indicated, his flagship was now surrounded by human vessels. Humanity never wanted war, Elaine said, her voice carrying through the vast space. We wanted partnership, but your emperor built an empire on lies and subjugation. She gestured to the holographic displays showing rebellions on countless worlds. We didn't cause this. We merely revealed the truth. Your own histories, your own secret records. All we did was share them with those who had a right to know. And appointed yourselves judges of our civilization, countered Delegate Zorl of the Vashtide Collective, one of the few remaining loyal Concordat species. What gives humans the right to dismantle a system that has maintained peace for 10,000 years? Peace? Elaine raised an eyebrow. Is that what you call it when dissident species are eliminated? When entire planets are sterilized for refusing Concordat rule? When billions live as slaves, believing themselves genetically inferior because of your tampering? She tapped her comm device and new holographic images appeared. Records of Concordat atrocities stretching back millennia, each more horrifying than the last. This is the peace you defend, Elaine said quietly, and yes, humanity judged it unworthy of continuation. Meanwhile, on the edges of Concordat space, human ships were evacuating endangered species, providing humanitarian aid and establishing new alliances. The message was clear. Humanity offered a different path forward than the millennia of Concordat rule. On the water world of Aqualis, human marine specialists helped the native Mer reclaim their deep-sea cities, abandoned generations ago when Concordat taxation made them unsustainable. On the desert planet Xeris, human terraforming experts shared technology that could reclaim land the Concordat had deemed worthless. On dozens of worlds, humans worked alongside former servant species, treating them as equals rather than subordinates. Not all welcomed this new approach. Species that had benefited from Concordat hierarchy fought to maintain the old order. Elite warrior castes, secret police forces, and privileged classes who had grown fat on the suffering of others resisted the change with violence. On the planet Draxus, loyalist forces attacked a human aid mission, destroying medical supplies meant for a village suffering from a Concordat-engineered plague. The humans, despite possessing superior weapons, responded with restraint, using non-lethal methods to subdue the attackers. Why didn't you kill them? asked Toril, a village elder, as human medics treated wounded loyalists alongside villagers. They would have shown no such mercy. That's the difference, replied Captain Samira West, commander of the Human Security Detail. We're not here to replace one form of domination with another. Violence only continues the cycle. As the Emperor's forces battled both human fleets and internal rebellions, a new coalition was forming, one based on mutual respect rather than domination. Species that had been enemies under concordate rule found common ground. Ancient rivalries began to heal as the truth of how the concordate had manipulated them came to light. In orbit around the neutral world of Zenith, representatives from 30 formerly subjugated species gathered on a human diplomatic vessel. Ambassador Torres, having left the Galactic Council, presided over the meeting. The concordate is collapsing, she said without preamble, but what replaces it is up to all of us. Earth has no desire to rule. We propose instead a true galactic alliance, one where all species have equal voice. Pretty words, rumbled Gorax, representative of the silicon-based Litharians. But naive. Power abhors a vacuum. If your species does not take control, another will. Perhaps that would have been true under the old paradigm, Elaine acknowledged. But humanity brings something new to the galactic stage. Not just technology or military strength, but a different philosophy. We believe diverse species working together create more than any single race could achieve alone. And if some refuse to cooperate? Asked Sira of the Veiled Ones, her translucent form shimmering with skepticism. Will you force them into your alliance? No, Elaine said firmly. Membership must be voluntary. But consider the advantages. Shared defense, open trade, cultural exchange, technological collaboration. The concordate kept species isolated to prevent them from growing stronger together. We propose the opposite approach. As discussions continued, reports arrived of a major development. Fleet Commander Zor had surrendered the concordate armada, rather than engage in what tactical analysis showed would be a suicidal battle against the human fleet. The Emperor's flagship, however, had broken formation, attempting to reach the nearest subspace junction point with a skeleton crew. Admiral Marcus Okafor watched from the bridge of the Resilient as the Emperor's massive vessel fired its engines to maximum thrust, desperately trying to escape. Should we pursue? Asked Commander Diana Reyes. Marcus considered the tactical display. The Emperor's ship was damaged, running on auxiliary power, its escape a futile gesture rather than a genuine threat. No, he decided. The Emperor is no longer relevant. Let him run. History has already passed him by. Instead, he opened a channel to the surrendered concordate fleet. This is Admiral Okafor to all concordate vessels. Your surrender is accepted. No harm will come to you or your crews. We invite your representatives to join the diplomatic discussions currently underway on Zenith. Commander Zor's voice. The Imperial Palace burned against the night sky of Concordia Prime, its ancient towers collapsing one by one as Emperor Vextar made his final stand. The once mighty capital of the galaxy's oldest empire had become a battlefield, with loyalist forces fighting desperately against a coalition of formerly subjugated species and breakaway concordate military units. In the throne room, built from materials harvested from 1,000 conquered worlds, the Emperor watched through the panoramic windows as his 10,000-year legacy crumbled before his 6 eyes. His once gleaming exoskeleton was scorched and dented, his royal garments torn in the fighting. The outer defenses have fallen. Your Eminence, reported Commander Lux, one of the few officers who had remained loyal. We cannot hold the inner citadel for more than another hour. Vexitar turned away from the windows, his massive form still imposing despite the circumstances. And my fleet? Lux hesitated before answering. The Armada has officially renounced its allegiance to the throne. Fleet Commander Zor has joined the Transitional Council. Traitors, the Emperor hissed. All of them. 10,000 years of order, prosperity, and peace, destroyed in mere weeks by primitive mammals. The throne room doors opened, and Grand Vizier Ulthar floated in, his translucent form dimmed with exhaustion. Your Eminence, the human delegation has arrived. They offer terms. Terms? Vextar's voice dripped with contempt. I do not negotiate with lesser species. With respect, Your Eminence, Ulthar said quietly. They are no longer the lesser species. They control most of the galaxy now, not through force but through alliance. The Emperor turned back to the windows, watching as ships bearing the new Galactic Congress emblem landed in the palace courtyards. Bring them in. Let me look upon the architects of my downfall. Minutes later, a small delegation entered the throne room. Admiral Marcus Okafor led the group, accompanied by Ambassador Elaine Torres and representatives from several former concordate species, including a Taldari, a Novanian, and even a member of the insectoid Krell, once among the Emperor's most loyal servant races. Emperor Vexitar. Marcus began with a formal bow that acknowledged the Emperor's position without submitting to it. The fighting can end today. Your surrender will be met with fair treatment under the new Galactic Charter. You've destroyed 10,000 years of order, Vexitar hissed at the human delegation. The species of this galaxy will destroy each other without our guidance. Without your control, you mean, corrected Kryn, the Taldari representative. His scaled form stood proudly, without the submissive posture that had been enforced on his people for generations. We've lived under your guidance for centuries. We choose freedom, even with its risks. The Emperor's gaze swept over the delegation, lingering on the representatives of species he had once considered property rather than equals. And you think these humans will treat you better? They're using you to expand their own power. Once the Concordat is gone, they'll establish their own empire. Perhaps, said Elaine, if we were like you. But humanity didn't evolve as a conquering species, Your Eminence. We developed through cooperation, through building communities rather than hierarchies. Naive nonsense, the Emperor replied. All species seek dominance. It is the way of the universe. No, Marcus stepped forward. It's the way you chose. The evidence is all around us. Species working together create more than they can alone. The new Galactic Congress offers a different path, one where all sentient beings have equal voice and equal rights. Vexitar turned away, his exoskeleton clicking in what might have been laughter. And you expect me to surrender to this idealistic fantasy? To live as a prisoner while my empire is dismantled? We expect you to face justice, said Ambassador Torres. The new Galactic Charter includes provisions for war crimes trials. The evidence of concordate atrocities has been thoroughly documented. The alternative, Marcus added, is continued bloodshed. Your loyal forces will be defeated, but many more will die needlessly. The Emperor was silent for a long moment, his ancient mind calculating possibilities, searching for advantage even now. Finally, he turned back to face the delegation. My surrender comes with one condition, he said. I will speak directly to your Galactic Assembly. I will tell them truths about this galaxy that even you humans, with all your stolen knowledge, do not understand. Marcus and Elaine exchanged glances. Agreed, Elaine said. You will have your chance to speak. 1 year after the Emperor's banishment vote, representatives from over 500 species gathered on neutral ground, a massive space station constructed in orbit around a newborn star. The Galactic Congress Hall had been designed with input from all member species, its architecture reflecting the diversity of the coalition rather than imposing the aesthetic of any single race. At the center of the hall, a circular platform held the Transitional Council, 12 representatives elected from different sectors of the galaxy. Ambassador Elaine Torres of Earth sat among them, but notably not in the leadership position. That role rotated weekly among all council members. Representatives of the Galactic Congress announced Council Leader Zor of the Crystalline Lumidary. Today marks the first anniversary of the liberation. 1 year ago, the oppressive rule of the Concordat began to crumble, and a new era of galactic cooperation was born. Applause and other signs of approval rippled through the vast chamber, expressed in the unique ways of hundreds of different species, from light displays to harmonic vocalizations to pheromone releases. Today, we ratify the Galactic Charter, Zor continued, a living document that enshrines the rights of all sentient beings and establishes the framework for our continued cooperation. On massive screens throughout the chamber, the charter appeared in the written language of each represented species. The document was the result of months of negotiation, compromise, and collaboration, a true galactic consensus rather than a human-imposed constitution. Before the final vote, Zor said, as promised during the peace negotiations, we will hear from former Emperor Vexitar. A hush fell over the assembly as a containment field was brought into the center of the chamber. Within it stood Vexitar, his once magnificent exoskeleton now dull, his royal garments replaced with simple coverings, yet his posture remained proud, defiant even in defeat. "Members of this Congress," he began, his voice still commanding despite his circumstances. "You celebrate today as a liberation, but I come to warn you of what you have unleashed." He raised all four arms in a gesture that once commanded absolute obedience throughout the galaxy. The Concordat did not arise from a desire for power alone. It was a response to threats you cannot imagine, threats that exist beyond the boundaries of our galaxy, in the dark spaces between stars. Murmurs spread through the assembly as Vextar continued. "Why do you think we controlled technological development so strictly? Why did we suppress certain scientific inquiries? It was not mere tyranny, it was protection. There are forces watching this galaxy, ancient entities that see advanced civilizations as threats to be eliminated." Ambassador Torres leaned forward. "Are you referring to the precursor artifacts found in the void sectors? Our researchers have been studying the records you kept hidden." Vextar's six eyes widened slightly in surprise. "Then you know the danger. The precursors did not disappear, they retreated, and they left sentinels to monitor developing civilizations." "We know," Marcus said from his position among the Earth delegation. "We found evidence in your ancestral archives, but we also found evidence that your ancestors could have worked with other species to face that threat together. Instead, they chose domination as their answer, control rather than cooperation." "Because cooperation is slow, inefficient," Vextar insisted. "The threats we face require decisive action, central authority. The threats we face require diversity of thought, of approach, of perspective," interrupted Kryn of the Taldari, now a full council member. "Your way had 10,000 years to solve these challenges and failed. Perhaps it's time for a new approach." Vextar looked out at the assembly. Hundreds of species his empire had once ruled, now gathered as equals. His mandibles clicked in what might have been resignation. "You have made your choice," he said finally. "I have fulfilled my obligation to warn you. What comes next is your responsibility." As the former emperor was escorted from the chamber, General Aisha Mbeki of the Earth Defense Force approached the central podium. Unlike many of the delegates in their formal attire, she wore her standard uniform. "Representatives of the Galactic Congress," she began, "the former emperor speaks of threats beyond our galaxy. He is not wrong. Our researchers have confirmed the existence of these ancient entities. But where the Concordat saw only reason for fear and control, we see opportunity for unity and strength." Holographic displays appeared, showing the combined fleet of the new Galactic Defense Force, vessels from dozens of species, including former Concordat warships now repurposed under the new charter. "We came to the stars hoping to find friends, not masters," Aisha continued. "We hid our true capabilities not out of deception but caution, and now we offer those capabilities freely to all our allies." The displays shifted, showing new technological developments, the results of collaboration between species that had never been allowed to work together under Concordat rule. Medical advances,